So I recently made a video talking about the importance of making space each day to connect with your heart and to reflect on what you know to be true about life. And this is a private space that you create, and the conversation is with yourself, and there may be questions that are unanswered, and it can just be a listening space with yourself and your heart. It doesn't have to be a particular method. It doesn't have to be writing. It doesn't have to be journaling, meditating. It's just space for you with your heart. But I recommend doing this every day, at least for a couple of minutes. It could be 5 minutes. 5 minutes or less every day can have a compounding effect. Now, what we're doing here is we're separating the layers of the psyche and the mind and social conditioning so that there's space beneath those layers and between those layers, and so that they're not gripping us and carrying us through some kind of default life lived for someone else. And this is why it's important to reduce external noise when you're in this practice. A reduction of external noise means scrolling is not a thing. Reading books is not a thing. Digesting inputs is not a thing. Music with lyrics is not a thing. The information that's coming in has to be processed, no matter where it's coming from. So having a little bit of a restriction on inputs and being acutely present with your own rituals, like making some tea, tidying your space before you sit in stillness, parking your car and looking at a view and sitting there, maybe watching the ocean, or just stopping before you get home and before you walk into your apartment. These are all ritual spaces where you can have this daily reflection. And if it helps you, you can put your hand on your heart, or you can actually put your hands on your belly and your heart, and you can breathe into that space before you reflect. This reflection is very different from rumination. It's very different from thinking, overthinking. It's not a process of finding answers to specific questions by zeroing in on those questions. You could take this reflection process to mean a decision-making process. You could misunderstand it a little bit in thinking that the purpose of it is to get clear on what to do next. And I want you to think of it less that way. Although it may help with that, I don't want you to approach it with that intention. It's simply something you do to be with yourself. That's key. The intention is to be with yourself, to sit with truth, to sit with the beauty of presence and your heart, and to see what arises from that, because that's where the real intelligence lies. When you're simply being with yourself to try to solve a problem because something's happened that really doesn't feel good, or you're getting kind of caught up in the thinking or caught up in your head about a situation, then the focus on that situation can draw you out of yourself into the construct that you're thinking about and into the potential forks in the road that your mind is creating, but which might not be based in grounded reality. We all have this. We all have this mind that wants to go into the future to make decisions, to help us assess how to act and take our next steps in the now, right? We all have this tendency, we've all encountered it, to want to figure things out. And sometimes there are things to figure out and to feel into, I guess, decisions that do need to be made. But this practice is so helpful because it is not about fixing those things and those situations. It's about reclaiming the energy from those things, which are external in a sense, and turning them towards yourself, and just remembering who you are and where you've come from. When I do this, I also end up feeling connected to a sense of peace and power, which can then lead to purpose. And I want to explain that a little bit. Questions of peace, purpose, and power can sometimes revolve around what we're doing externally and the conditions of our life, our situation. But real peace, real power, and real purpose are not situational. This is really important. They're not situational. Real peace isn't something that comes to you when the external conditions are right. And you can only realize this when you've played with the external conditions enough and things have gone well and not so well and all that, and then you come back to the same revelation that it's just always you in there experiencing whatever that is. So peace is when you choose to remain in the wholeness and spaciousness of the you in there that's having the experience, rather than identifying excessively with the conditions and telling yourself, weaving this wild story that something that happens externally can make or break you. So peace is a worldview shift. Peace is to see life through the lens of peace, to be resting as peace as you interact with the world, to start from peace and then to choose based on that filter. If you're trying to get peace by doing something, then implicit in that, or implied in that, is that you're not already at peace, because if you already had it, why would you need to go and get it? So you can't start from that. That logic does not work. It doesn't work out. Peace it's a choice. The choice is to recognize the you that's been in there the whole time through all of your life, and to know that that you behind all of the events has always been peaceful and has always been safe, even when shit has hit the fan. And to breathe into that. Breathe into that. Put your hand on your heart. Breathe into that knowing and breathe into your heart space, so that you're grounding that understanding of what peace is with a somatic, bodily, direct experience of it. Power then comes from peace, because if you're not running around trying to find things to make yourself peaceful, if you don't need to control the external in order to feel whole, that's power. That's actually what power is. A lot of people look for external power as a reactive compensation to the lack of internal peace. So power becomes this big lever, this big tool, this big mechanism to arrange things and rearrange things and to grow things to such an extent that we'll never have to face the void that was there. Until, of course, the things that you glean your power from shift, change, move, fall apart, or until you reach the end of your life and realize that you can't control that. And so then you have this massive oh fuck freak out. So it's better to source your power from peace and from the lucidity of knowing that peace is an internal game, and it's a choice. It's a way of seeing. It's a way of being. It's not something that can be given to you by any set of circumstances. Things can happen to you that hurt. Life can have these chaotic moments or turn of events, whatever, where we don't really understand what's happening and we're not really sure how to navigate, okay? So that can be true, and there is also peace. And if you want to believe that peace can only be had when you are all-knowing and crystal clear and fully lucid, then you're cock-blocking yourself from the peace that you deserve. But when you accept that peace is always coexistent with whatever else is happening, then there's always a direct doorway to peace. And peace is the place that you're seeing and experiencing from. Peace is where you experience the storm from. It's always there. This paradigm, and it is a paradigm, this way of seeing, this choice must be present. If you don't want to believe in peace, if you don't want to embrace peace, you won't have peace. You are powerful enough in your creation and in your affirmation and in your expectation that you can use your free will to be chaotic and unhappy if you want to. You do need to choose, and you do have the power to choose. But if you deeply choose peace, then you won't have to make too many more choices, because peace will become your litmus test for what's right and what's not. Difficult doesn't mean disordered or chaotic or problematic. Difficult can also be peaceful, like hard labor, physical labor, or a task which requires a lot of focused attention and presence, or a puzzle. But there's peace in all of these things. So knowing that brings you the power, because as someone who is comfortable within themselves, comfortable in who they are, not because they know everything about themselves, not because everything is perfect, but because they've chosen peace with themselves. From that place, you can move powerfully, because you're not in argument with reality. You're not in argument with your own heart. You're not in argument with the way you are. And you're also not in argument with change, with things shifting. So this harmony, which deepens the more you choose it, results in an ability to persist through feelings, through situations, and through ripplings of fear without being shaken to smithereens. Peace meets intensity peacefully. Peace doesn't negate intensity. Peace meets necessity and urgency peacefully. It doesn't need them to not be there. Peace does not mean that you have to be calm all the time. And when you keep adding conditions to your understanding of peace, you're limiting your peace. Don't make it conditional. This is the power. To be peacefully in yourself unconditionally. And it is a choice. Under more and more circumstances, as life asks you to grow, to commit, to step in, to attempt without knowing whether you'll succeed, peace steps with you. Peace is what you bring forth into those experiences. Can you see the power in this? The power comes from the internal way of relating, and it enables you to be less emotionally reactive. It enables you not to be afraid of your fear, because fear will come up. Anytime you step into something that's new or challenging or difficult, there's going to be fear, because you're confronting an aspect of reality. You're meeting an aspect of reality that you're not yet sure how to interact with. And there's a lot there, and you're not sure how it's going to eventuate. It's okay to feel fear. It's absolutely okay, but bring peace to the fear, and then you'll find power as you move through the fear. There's no power without peace. Now, the last aspect of this is purpose. Your purpose doesn't have to be some unique identifier which attaches itself like a name tag to your identity. Like it doesn't have to be Jack's purpose is to teach movement and to spread the knowledge about the body to the whole world. Like, you know, that's an idea. That's a thing that people say, like a mission statement. And you might lean into that for a while, and you might use that for a month or a decade. But your purpose is deeper. Once again, your purpose is deeper. If you reflect on what we've just said, I want to ask you a question, and you can ponder this while you watch. Which gives you more of a sense of purpose? The process of choosing peace and remembering your power as you move through the emotional ripples and challenges of growing and being alive, or looking for your purpose, seeking your purpose. Which one is more peaceful? Which one is more powerful? Which one is more purposeful? Which one actually exudes purpose? Being peaceful and powerful as you step through chaos, or trying to find your purpose? So that what? Once you found your purpose, then what? You'll be peaceful and you'll be powerful. That's the hope, right? And so if you're hoping to get something from this pursuit of purpose, which you're not willing to receive and to turn towards in the absence of purpose, then it's mathematically impossible for you to fully receive that thing. If you don't want peace and purpose and power, all of these P words are confusing me, but if you don't want the substance of the thing that you're looking for now, if you're not willing to have it now, then why would you be willing to have it later? That's what I'm trying to get across here. So your purpose is to move through the karma, the conditions, the sequential events, the timeline of your life and your blueprint, while reflecting back into the heart, while remembering the choice to be peaceful and the power that comes from that. That is a purposeful way to live. There's nothing to look for. There's nowhere else to go, nothing to find. This is all available to you right now. And it's actually, when you do turn towards it, it's much more effortless than seeking, trying to get it right, trying to control, trying to make the right decision, and all of these intellectual, contracting type ways of relating to life. Feel into trying to make the right decision, like right or wrong. Feel into that. What does that feel like? An expansion in your body or a contraction? Feel into, if I don't get this right now, then I won't be at peace. That feels like a box that I don't want to crawl into personally. Now feel into, I can choose peace and be at peace in myself, no matter what I need to deal with externally. Feel into that. Now, you may be feeling things as I say these, like if I offer you peace and you feel afraid of claiming it, that's okay. I understand. If I say your power is already here and you resist and you want to give me a reason why it's not, and you've got trauma, you've got something going on, there's this, there's that, I understand. Because I've also felt that. It's like, what do you mean? What real things have stripped me of my power? They haven't. What's happened is these events have caused a level of feeling and intensity within you, which you can't quite fathom could coexist with peace. But that doesn't mean you're not powerful. That just means that you're still stuck in the belief that peace is not available now and power is not available now. Peace and power come from your way of navigating and who is doing the navigating. They don't come from the conditions. I'm telling you this because I've experienced very dense, very difficult, very painful, completely ego stripping, like I want to die type stuff. And that's why I've arrived at this way of thinking, because it works, because it makes sense, because it's helped me to be a better human being in a very tangible, material, substantial way in those times, and it's helped me to reclaim my health amongst the stress of those times. So the purpose is in the way you navigate. The purpose isn't in where you stop, put up a flag and say, right, this is me, this is my purpose. Now that you're not looking for purpose, and now that you're moving from more peace and more power, and you're living more purposefully, well, guess what you're going to attract? Guess what you are now a resonant match for? Guess what you are wide open to receive? Guess what you are advertising through your very being in the way you walk, breathe, and show up? You're advertising that you are open to more of those things that you want. And so opportunities will stick to you rather than bounce off if they're right. And opportunities that are actually not right will bounce off. And little by little, your compass will become clearer. Not only will your compass of how to behave, how to decide what to do become clearer, the compass will be less frazzled by the circumstances you find yourself in. So let's say you're in a job that you don't really like, and this job seems to be just really far from ideal, and it's taking up a lot of your time, and you really don't feel good in it. It doesn't feel aligned with who you are, your identity, your persona, the way it's not a fit, it's not what you like. That's cool. Okay, so you can have that experience, and you can be in the grittiness, the unpleasantness of that. But that experience does not come in and take away your power or your peace unless you choose to offer your power and peace to that. That experience doesn't take away your ability to live purposefully as you go through your emotions. If anything, it's offering you the potential to make an even more formative choice to remember who you are. The more the external seems as though it's turning against everything you value, and the more your inner state feels inhospitable and difficult, the more significant, potent, and affirming it is when you choose peace, when you choose power, when you choose purpose. You say, my purpose is not something that's chosen for me by the job that I don't like. My purpose is to show up as the kind of human being I want to be under all circumstances, bar none. So now we're going from this very settled, heart-based way of being to the filling up of substance that happens when we're connected with that, which then starts to push outward and take care of the external. Because this deep commitment, this literally life or death commitment to live from here and in the spine and in the breath and in choice, in agency, is the most powerful thing you will ever experience in your life if you choose it. And you don't have to choose it. When I say choose it, it's not this militant, you gotta fucking get it, you gotta make the choice. Like, I'm not imposing this on you and saying this is the right way. I'm suggesting that this is what will naturally arise when you get really clear on what you know to be true in your life. When you revisit your life story and you look at what mattered and what didn't. When you consider how finite life is, you consider the people you love, and you consider what matters and what doesn't in those relationships. That clarity in itself is so piercing and so powerful, and comes from such a loving, lucid space that when you have it, things will shift around it. If we get a little bit esoteric, it's like the heart's field and the purity of awareness combined with some reflective insight and some free will end up creating this water parting magnetic beam that just goes forth before you, and you have faith in that, and the world organizes. It just does, because the level of coherence, we can talk about electromagnetic and all that stuff. I don't think we even need to. We don't need to make everything scientific or reach to make these claims. You know this. The level of coherence you feel when you remember who you are, when you're in line with your heart, and when you take steps in that direction kindly, warmly, and firmly. Oh, it's powerful stuff. Incoherence, in the presence of coherence, starts to gravitate towards coherence. Truth, real truth, heart truth, awareness, choice, now, agency, it cuts through noise, it cuts through confusion, and it attracts resonance. It's a safe signature energetically. It's a powerful signature. It's something that human beings want to be around. It exudes leadership, but the leadership isn't about controlling other people or controlling external circumstances. It exudes sense making, you know? It's like trustworthy father energy, or it's like wise, loving grandmother energy, or it's like child who is so beaming and joyful energy. Like, all of these things make an impression. There's a certain impression that you will make when you live purposefully, and it's not about knowing what your niche is. The modern world has turned purpose into a niching exercise. Capitalism has made you think that unless you can define your purpose and market it and express it to others, that unless your purpose is fully formed linguistically and can be put into a blog, that it's not there. You know that that's not true. And deep down, you're frustrated by this idea that you need to keep defining your purpose in such a crass way, in such a trite way. You know that there is a purpose that's deeper. You've touched it, you've felt it with the people you love and with the experiences that have come naturally to you, where you've really shown up and given yourself to the experience. You felt it when you're in flow, when you're deep into a craft, a practice, a skill. Purpose is the very act of moving through the world, knowing who you are. And knowing who you are is not about labeling it and niching it and having a thing that you can write down, three things that I am and 3 things I'm not. That's not it. Knowing who you are is simply knowing your own heart, and knowing the awareness which is watching the heart, dancing with it, and knowing that the purpose is to live through that as everything else happens. That's it, guys. That's the thing. So just practice being in that state, cultivating that state, and noticing that state. Be curious about that state. Curiosity is powerful in itself. Just be curious about that state. Hands on heart, hands on belly. Be curious about the things that really fucking resonate with you and why they resonate. And over time, that state will become consolidated and solidified as part of your more exterior human identity. It will begin to exude through that density, that critical mass of loving awareness within you that clarifies things, will begin to consolidate and affect the external. So the state of consciousness and this experience of truth starts to become a stage of consciousness. It starts to embed itself in the world, in your identity. Rather than becoming a place you visit, it becomes a place that you are, which exudes from you, and the world starts to reflect that back at you. And the more you keep stepping in through iteration, return, daily remembering, the more that is you, until eventually there's nothing else but that of you. Everything else is just let go. Everything else can move and shift and change. The preferences that you may currently be clinging to in your life to have things go a particular way will show themselves to be far less important to you than this way of living and being. Because you will see how this way of living and being carries you through all things and always brings life and love. And you'll see that those preferences are fragile. They're weak, and so to attach yourself to them and to invest in them too heavily is to invest in glass houses, golden cages. They look good for a while. They're always shifting and changing. Preferences are so fickle. And the more you release preferences because you've chosen peace, power, and purpose, the more you ironically can just kind of prefer whatever happens. You can access your preferences no matter what happens. There's that saying, the great way is easy for he with no preference. Something like that. If you've got no preference, everything will do. But this doesn't come from a resignation. This doesn't come from an apathy. It's not, oh yeah, fuck it, I guess I'll settle for that, it's good enough. This comes from a choice to be peaceful and not to pick apart your life. It comes from a choice to return to purpose, purposeful living, a process, a way of moving, a way of breathing, a way of relating. And to see that that's much more fulfilling than clinging to certain preferences as moments in time or places in time. All of these things we see on the map externally, jobs, people, cars, bodies, ideas, concepts, programs, projects, these are all preferential markers, right? They're like little reference points to look at and to kind of feel into. But those reference points will and should shift as life moves. And you need to reorient yourself within those preferences and those reference points to shift through them and allow them to move. This is where the saying, connected to everything, attached to nothing, comes in. And the idea of non-attachment or non-fixation or non-clinging, all of that gets replaced with this groundless ground, this ground which is always moving, this sense of the lily pad is found when the step is being taken. But before you take the step, you don't need the lily pad. So take the step, move into yourself, saturate yourself, reflection, heart, loving awareness. It will build, it will build, it will build. The peace becomes power. The power expresses itself purposefully through the layers of preference and reference points and external stuff and challenges and tests and karmic loops and things that you've done in the past that are coming back to be revisited. Keep cultivating inside, and all of that dissolves and breaks through. And as you step towards your fear, as you step towards your uncertainty, and as you step towards the unknown and soften your preferences, you may be surprised with what you meet, and you may realize that everything is okay. And it's always been okay, and it always will be okay. But there are many different flavors of okay, and some of them are spicy, some of them are bitter, but it's all okay. Anyway, I think that's all I've got to say on this one, but I hope this has been valuable for you, and I hope that you allow this to be simple. None of what I've told you is about making the right decision externally. You'll do your best with what you know. Just keep coming back to heart, to presence, and let the emotion and the fear and the stuckness and the lack of certainty, let it wash through, let it come through. Don't react to it. Keep showing up as the kind of person that you wish the world had more of. And that will give you so much. That will do so much for you. Yeah, I think it's enough for now. Much love. Popcorn time.